Zankyou no Terror, Terror in Tokyo, Terror in Resonance, whatever you want to call it, it's the brand new anime masterpiece from director Shinichiro Watanabe. If you don't know who he is, he's worked on some of the greatest anime series of all time. You might have heard of a few of them, like Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, and Space Dandy. So safe to say, I was expecting a lot from Zankyou no Terror, and luckily for me, the first episode blew away my expectations with incredibly gorgeous animation, great art direction, and a story that I feel is going to end up being very controversial, because the whole concept of Zankyou no Terror is it's about a group of these two high school students who are known as Sphinx, and they're sort of this upstart terrorist group. And in the first episode, you don't get to really learn too much about their backstories. You just get to see how they work as an organization. In fact, the first bit of the episode opened up with a great action scene where you got to see the both of them performing this heist in the middle of a nuclear facility, and it really shows off the production value of the show, but it also really importantly shows off how these two are going to work together. The two main characters are 9 and 12. 12 is the more free-spirited, goofy, bubbly member of the group, but he also has his dark side. And then, of course, you have 9, who is much more stoic and seems to be more like the leader of the group. He seems like he is a man on a mission. And they seem to have come from an organization with a lot of kids just like them, and apparently they're one of the only survivors, or only the few survivors. But that's really all they tell you much about their backstory. But they start going to this high school, but the main bulk of this episode is getting to see them perform this big terrorist operation where they bring down this whole building in Tokyo with the use of these little alien bombs. I say alien because it's like these little mascot plushie dolls that they stuff with bombs, which systematically go off when they call on their cell phones. And it's really disturbing, it's incredibly realistic, and it certainly reminds you of the horrors that we have to deal with in everyday life. This is a series that is grounded in extreme realism, and there really aren't any too crazy anime moments, aside just from some goofy faces every once in a while. But you're not going to see anybody's heads exploding and massive giant sweat drops or anything. You're going to see some deathly badass realistic shit going on. Like when that building starts to go down at the end and you see the destruction it's causing, it's very real and it's really intense. It also gives us an excuse to see an action scene where 12 is on a motorcycle and gets to save this one girl from their high school who actually ends up getting roped into their terrorist group, but only because she doesn't want to die herself. And she seems like she's going to be a pretty important character in the series. Her name is, I believe, Lisa Mishimi or Mishima. I can't quite remember, but what I will say is she's a very soft-spoken girl. She doesn't really seem to have any friends at her school, and she seems to have it out for the world, which makes her seem like she's going to be a perfect member for this terrorist group. And that's another thing that makes this kind of strange. Since you don't really know anything about the backstories of both 9 and 12 quite yet, I'm not really sure if I should be rooting for them. I don't know if I should be, applauding the fact that they just brought this building down and probably killed hundreds of people in this massive attack. And what's more is they actually told everybody that it was going to happen. There's this other group of characters, which are these detectives, I'm imagining, and they're looking at this video that they actually released on this YouTube, and it's them wearing these Super Sentai masks. They look like Power Rangers, and they even say at the next day at 3 p.m., Tokyo is going to be completely blanketed in darkness. And that's what happens. They pretty much just blew up everything. They turned all the power off for 30 minutes so they could do this crazy, crazy terrorist attack. And they succeeded. And they seemed pretty happy about it at the end, too. And that's just sort of where the episode ends. And you just have a lot of questions and you don't really know what to take quite yet. Because, like I said, I don't really know if I should be rooting for these guys. So, what's the rundown on the first episode of Zankyou no Terror? I thought it was awesome. It was a really great opening to this show because it's got me really intrigued about the concept of the series and where it's going. It really opened up with a bang. It was a great demonstration to show us of what the show is actually going to be like when they do their action sequences. And the scene where they actually had the truck and they were performing the heist where the snowmobile came out, that looked so freaking awesome. And for some odd reason, it brought to mind memories of watching Akira when they were having the big bike chase. I'm not sure why, but it just gave me that feeling. The characters of 9 and 12 are not too shocking to me. Since this is from director Shinichiro Watanabe, for some odd reason, it sort of reminds me of the characters of Spike and Jet, how completely different they are and how yet they're sort of still on the same mission with each other. And I guess that could go for the characters in Samurai Champloo as well. I don't know if I could relate them to anybody from Space Dandy, but that's only because the show seems to be grounded in a little more realism. The artwork and the animation, and of course the opening and all the music and everything was really good. There's also this one flashback which had these like really hard guitar riffs going on in it. It was really jarring at first, but the more I watched it, the more I really liked that, and it gave it a lot of distinctiveness and made the scene all the more suspenseful and tense. I'm not going to give a score for this week's episode. I will just say that I'm thoroughly impressed by it, and I honestly didn't expect to be so floored by it. But the art direction, the character designs, the actual characters themselves, and the entire concept of the story really has me intrigued. And I think this is something that we all should tune in for, but, you know, you're definitely going to hear about it. I really do think this show is going to cause a small amount of controversy with some people. And I really don't know too much about the series in general. I don't know if this is like strictly an anime or if it's based on a manga or anything. If you guys know, maybe you could tell me with your comments below. All I know is the first episode was freaking fantastic and probably one of the better things that I have seen this week. And that's pretty amazing considering, because all of the summer shows that have been starting have been really, really good, guys. So let's just kick back and relax, because we have got a lot of good anime to watch. So check it out, the first episode of Zankyou no Terror, Terror in Tokyo, or Terror in Resonance, whatever you want to call it. Thank you guys for watching my review today. Before you leave, make sure and give it a like so you can help out the video, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put links to those in the description box below. And remember, before you leave, to tell me what you thought about the very first episode of Zankyou no Terror. Do you think the series has a bright future, or do you think it's going to be a dud? So guys, that concludes my review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.